The Sixers have dropped 2 games in a row, dropping their series lead to just 3-2 with Game 6 being played tonight. The Phillies are on the verge of being back on track with a series sweep against the Colorado Rockies. And the Eagles, it's draft night. All that coming to you on Sports Talk Philadelphia. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sports Talk Philadelphia. I'm your host, Cale Flieger. I'm joined by the usual panel, my co-producer, Aiden Sisinski. Aiden, how are we doing today?
Doing pretty well, Cale.
And we have Matt Dorenzo back for another episode. Matt?
I'm doing well. Hold my breath over that Sixers series right now.
Yeah, and the Sixers definitely have everyone on the edge of their chairs currently as they drop 2 games. We talked about last episode, they're up to a 3-0 series lead. They dropped 2 in a row, one in Toronto where they lost by 8 points, 110-102. Pascal Siakam played a great game, 34 points, 8 rebounds. Joel Embiid, a little bit off game there, 21 points, and James Harden, 22 points. And then Game 5, back at home for the Sixers. Everyone thinks they're going to close out the series, and just an awful loss to a Raptors team who didn't have Fred VanVleet. They lost 103-88. Pascal Siakam played great again, 23 points and 10 rebounds, double-double. And Joel Embiid, a torn ligament in that right thumb, causing him to only score 20 points and 11 rebounds. So now the Sixers series lead is 3-2. They're back in Toronto tonight for Game 6. Overall, what is your guys' reaction to dropping 2 games in a row? I mean, last week it seemed like we're on the verge of a sweep, and now we're in Game 6, possibly Game 7 on Saturday.
Yeah, that Game 3 is definitely looking a lot more like a lucky win than it was just a little blimp in the road. If you look at how we played after that, 22 turnovers in that game. Game 4, we cut back on them, 14 turnovers. We didn't look awful. It just looked like they weren't motivated at all, and that was really frustrating to see in the playoffs. You can't do that at all. And then the next game, just awful. I mean, the starters were okay, but the bench only scored 11 points, most of them coming in the first quarter. By midway in the third quarter, we only had like 2 points. It was Thybulle making like a lucky shot because the Raptors almost like put the ball in their own net. I don't really know how that happened, but it was just a really, really bad game. And it just looks like the Sixers went from looking really sharp to having a bad game in Game 3 to looking unmotivated in Game 4 to now just looking like they don't want to be here after Game 5.
Yeah, right now I'm nervous overall. I mean, after looking really good in Game 1 and 2, as I said, the kind of lucky win over there in Game 3 in Toronto. And Game 4, I get it, it's one of those trap games, up 3-0, lose by 8 points. But then when you go back home for Game 5, after having that probably a must-win game, because if you lose that Game 5, you're going back to Toronto for Game 6, and then if they win that game over at home, all the momentum just shifts right back to them. So going up 3-0, really, the Sixers thought they had a cakewalk. I mean, that never happened in history before. We saw it happen in NHL and MLB a bunch of times, but in NBA, no team has ever blown a 3-0 lead. And Doc Rivers, here he is, the coach who's blown the 2-0 lead in the past, 3-1 lead back-to-back years. And right now, it's just frustrating as a Sixers fan because going up 3-0, it looked very, very good.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to see where Joel Embiid, he's obviously getting double and triple team almost every single possession he touches the ball. And the other superstar we traded for midway through the season, James Harden, has not been aggressive. And Joel Embiid made that clear after Game 5, after that loss. He said, James Harden needs to be more aggressive, but it's not Joel's job to tell him that. That's Doc Rivers' job to tell him, be more aggressive and shoot the ball. Do you guys think tonight James Harden is more aggressive? Because we need to, I mean, the way Joel Embiid with his injury, the way he's getting guarded, I mean, we need to prime James Harden night where he scores 30 to 35 points.
Yeah, I mean, James Harden is nowhere near the player he was a few years ago in MVP. He was putting up 36 points a game like it was nothing. And I know that player's still there because that mentality doesn't just go away. So when he has the ball and he's open for shots, I'm just confused why he doesn't take them sometimes. I mean, especially the last game when we were down by 15, he should have been chucking those threes up because we all know he can make them. I mean, and with Embiid's summer injury, we really do need James Harden to step up and be more aggressive like the player we all know he can be.
So there's 2 guys I'm looking forward that need to step up in tonight's game. One is James Harden, absolutely. The other one's Danny Green. And I know I've been harping on Danny Green all season. He finally played like a great 3 games, and he played all right in Game 4, and now he just completely fell apart. He shot 2 of 10 from the field, like 0 of 5 from three-point range. It was just really, really bad basketball. So he needs to step up as well. Those are the 2 starters that really played badly in that last game, and that's a big reason they lost.
Yeah, we did see in Game 5, Matisse Thybulle was eligible to come back for the Sixers since the game was not in Toronto, and he struggled heavily. He did not make a shot from the floor besides when one of the Raptors players hit his shot in. He got credited for it. But are you guys worried about the way Matisse Thybulle has been playing? And do you think if the Sixers do advance past the Toronto Raptors, do you think is he still in that rotation, or do you think he's getting kicked out for the way he played this last game?
Well, here's what I don't understand about Thybulle. Clearly, Doc Rivers was not giving him minutes because he was going to go back to Toronto in Game 6 and not play. Why was he playing 14 minutes, shot 1 of 6 from the field, 0 of 5 from threes, and then Korkmaz made 1 3 in 2 minutes, and that was all the playing time that Korkmaz got? I said that Korkmaz needed more playing time in Game 3. That was my only criticism of Doc Rivers. Now it's seeming like the Korkmaz not playing is a big reason why the Sixers haven't won these last couple of games. And again, one player's not going to make a huge difference, but there's no reason for Thybulle to be playing if he's not going to play in Game 6, and he was playing as badly as he did in Game 5.
Going back to what you said with the whole Thybulle shooting terribly, and he's not playing in Toronto, so why should Doc even play him all? I don't mind that at all because his defense is just such a game changer going there. And going forward, if we do get past the Raptors tonight or on Saturday, we need him against Miami. We need him covered. Tyler Herro has been awesome. Jimmy Butler, we all know we could do. And Duncan Robinson's a great lockdown shooter. So really, if we don't have Matisse Thybulle going forward in this playoffs, we're not winning anything.
Yeah, like I did say, Joel Embiid does have a torn right ligament in his right thumb. It will require surgery after the season, but Joel Embiid obviously is going to play through it for the rest of the postseason here. He's averaged 21 points per game the past 2 playoff games with that right tear in his thumb. Obviously, we could tell it's bothering him a little bit. I mean, just the way he's shooting. Obviously, he's got it wrapped up during the games. Does this worry you guys at all? I mean, we saw last year Embiid had that torn MCL, and he still averaged about 30 points per game on it. Obviously, the shooting hand, your thumb, it's a big part the way you shoot the basketball. Are you guys worried for this series and beyond with Joel Embiid?
I mean, obviously you're worried when your MVP guy gets hurt like that, up 3-0 in a series, and you drop 2 in a row. But for Embiid, I know it's his right thumb. I think most of it's all mentally. Because if he can handle that pain in his right thumb and he's able to shoot in warm-ups, once he gets in the game, once he misses those first 2 shots, or it's a mental block, he goes, oh, my thumb's hurt, oh, I can't do what I used to do. And when Harden starts seeing that mental block, Harden needs to step up, be that leader we all know he can be, and be that guy to look to score. But I'm just really worried about Joel Embiid going forward.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Matt a lot with it being a mental thing more than it is the actual physical injury. Because here's the biggest thing with Embiid. It's not that he's really shooting badly. It's not that he's not getting rebounds. But every time he goes off the ball, he just looks slower. And it doesn't make any sense because it's not a leg injury. It's just his hand. But he just doesn't look like he's putting that same effort that he does when he's 100% healthy. And that's something that's been a big criticism in the playoffs every time he gets hurt. So this is something that he's got to figure out, especially tonight. Because if they lose tonight, I don't see them winning Game 7, even if it is in Philly.
Yeah, the Sixers do have Game 6 tonight, a crucial game in the series to not force a Game 7 and come back to Philly. Fred VanVleet, who was out for Game 5 with a hip injury, is unlikely to play in Game 6 again for the Toronto Raptors, again with that hip injury. Obviously, Matisse Thybulle is unable to play for the Philadelphia 76ers because of vaccine status. Overall, this is a must-win for the 76ers, obviously. They've dropped the past 2 games. You got to bounce back and win this game. Obviously, Toronto's a hostile environment. You know their fans are really going to bring it. They've shown that through the first 2 games of the series. What do you guys expect tonight? Do you think the Sixers squeeze out a win here?
I've got a really bad feeling about this game. Just the fact that they've dropped the last 2. They pretty much should be down 3-2. If it wasn't for that great shot by Embiid in overtime in Toronto in Game 3, I just feel like that they aren't going to come out with that energy that they need to. They're going to lose this one. And if they do, I don't see them winning the series.
I mean, it's a must-win game. I mean, that crowd in Toronto, and if Embiid loses that game 6, he's getting flashbacks to 2019 with that Kawhi shot. And the morale of the team, after being up 3-0, they just tie the series 3-3. I don't care if you're home. I don't care where you are playing that game. Just the overall lackluster will of that team. They're not going to be good going into Game 7.
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be a very close game tonight, back and forth like it has been. Hopefully the Sixers pull one out here and end this series and go on to and face the Miami Heat. Obviously, this isn't the situation we want to be in right now, but hopefully they can close it out tonight and get past this series. We are going to take a look into the other Eastern Conference playoff series that have been happening. On the Bulls versus Bucks, the Bucks defeated the Bulls last night to end that series and go 4-1 there. The Heat took down the Hawks 4-1 as well. And the Celtics versus the Nets, probably the most shocking series. I think anyone probably didn't see this coming. The Celtics swept the Nets. I thought many people were saying that at least was going to go to 6 games, possibly 7, but ends in a sweep. Kind of what is your kind of biggest takeaway from the Eastern Conference so far?
I mean, just looking at that graphic, you see those powerhouse teams, they took care of business. Something the Sixers haven't done in previous years and certainly aren't doing right now. The Bucks, they lost Chris Middleton. They won 4-1. The Heat, Jimmy Butler didn't play last game. Kyle Lowry's been out 2 games. They won 4-1. The Hawks, that's the same Hawks team the Sixers lost to last year. And then the Celtics, the Nets, they were the favorite going into the playoffs. They were the favorite for the playoffs, and they went out there and they swept them 4-0. All these good teams, all these powerhouse teams in the East are taking care of business, and that's right now. The Sixers are so far below them.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway, similar to what Matt says, the fact that the Sixers are the only team to lose 2 games so far, with the series still going on, who were the higher seed going into that series. It's just really disappointing to see, especially because they could have easily put away this game in Game 4. They didn't even play that badly in that game. They just looked like they didn't want to be there, really, and it made absolutely no sense, especially coming off of that huge win in Game 3. So they really got to figure it out tonight.
Yeah, definitely a big game tonight for the Philadelphia 76ers. Hopefully they can get back on track and we have an MVP Embiid game. James Harden's more aggressive. And overall, it's just a good night for 76ers fans as we're celebrating, going to the second round, and advancing against the Miami Heat. Well, that's all we have for the 76ers. We are going to move on to Philadelphia Phillies as they've gotten back on track this past series against the Colorado Rockies. The previous series, 2 series, though, they were still on that streak. They lost a series to the Colorado Rockies, and they also lost a series against the Brewers. But now they're back at home against the Rockies. They're up 3-0 currently. They're currently playing right now in that 4th game, up 7-1 in the top of the 9th inning. So hopefully we don't jinx them, but should be a win there. Now they're on a 4-game win streak. Overall, talking about this Rocky series here, how impressive has it been to get back on track with these 4-game series? We've seen the aces have looked like aces again. The bats have started to heat up. So obviously the Phillies looking much more comfortable now.
Yeah, baseball's a really funny sport like that, where you could be down 4 games under 500 and feel like that you're out of the water. Play 1 series, now you're back to 500. My biggest takeaway so far is that we've gotten a little bit more consistency out of our starters. Castellanos, Gregorius, Bohm, and Realmuto are all batting over 300 right now. Harper's batting 274, maybe a little bit higher today. I haven't checked. But that's really good to see that 5 of our 9 consistent starters are batting really well. It's just great to see our starting pitching looks much better at this point. So it's just a really nice improvement since the beginning of that first series against Oakland.
Yeah, I mean, the Phillies were struggling all year to begin the year. They lost to the Rockies early in the year in Colorado. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Brewers. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Mets. They just couldn't find a winning series. And they come out back at home, 4-game homestand against the Rockies, and they were up 3-0, about to go up 4-0 in the series. The starting pitching has looked very, very good. The other night, Zach Eflin looked really, really good. Only allowed like 1 or 2 hits through 6 or 7 innings. Today, Zach Wheeler, I was watching, like no runs through 6 innings. The starters are just really looking to do what you want them to do. Because once the starting pitcher starts getting hot, then those bats start getting hot. And as we've seen, back-to-back games, we put up 10 runs on Tuesday. We put up 7 or 8 runs today. The other game, we put up 8 runs. So once everything starts clicking, I think the Phillies finally found their groove.
Yeah, Zach Wheeler, he has struggled through his first couple starts of the season coming off that injury, but today he looked like the ace and the Cy Young Award finalist that we saw last year. I mean, 6 innings pitched today, 1 hit allowed, 7 strikeouts. That's the Zach Wheeler we know, and hopefully that's the Zach Wheeler that stays for the Phillies the rest of this season. I do want to go back to the Milwaukee Brewers series that was played last series, where Aaron Nola pitched a perfect game. I mean, 7 innings, 1 hit, 9 strikeouts. But obviously, Angel Hernandez was umping that game and a lot of missed calls for the Phillies. One point where the Phillies had bases loaded, couple strikes called out of the zone, called on Gene Segura that ended up the Phillies not getting any runs in that inning and ended up losing that game 1-0. We also saw in the same game Kyle Schwarber got ejected in the bottom of the 9th inning for arguing a strike 3 that was called. Obviously, he was outside of the zone, should have been a walk, but he called it a strike 3. Overall, what was your overall reaction to Angel Hernandez's umping of that game?
I mean, he's been terrible for years. And the fact that he still has an MLB job it just blows my mind. But Aaron Nola played so good. No matter who's behind that plate umping, no matter what calls you have to give him some insurance runs. Find a way to do anything. He looked like the ace of our lineup for the first time in years. 7 innings, 1 hit, 9 Ks. I mean, he literally looked like prime Aaron Nola, and we put up 0 runs. So, I mean, going forward, you got to be better than that.
Yeah, Aaron Nola always has these games once or twice a year where he just looks like the pitcher that everyone thinks he could be. Last year was that 10 strikes in a row against the Mets. This year, that great game against the Brewers. Totally agree with Matt. Yes, Angel Hernandez is not a good umpire, but he was also making really bad calls for the Brewers. Andrew McCutchen was arguing balls and strikes when he got run up on a ball that was called outside for a strike. So it was just really bad both ways. But the Phillies got to score more than 0 runs. They got to get more than 5 hits, considering that it wasn't even one of the Brewers' best pitchers. The pitcher that was pitching was Eric Lauer, who is basically the Brewers' 4th best pitcher. It's not Freddie Peralta. It's not Burns. So you got to score more than 0 runs in that game.
Exactly, and like Aiden said, their 4th best pitcher, and he had 13 strikeouts for the day. So obviously not a great day at the plate for the Phillies, but they have started to heat up in this following series against the Rockies, so hopefully the hot bat sticks with the Phillies lineup. We are going to go to Bryce Harper. He's been DH now for 12 games in a row. Bryce dealing with that right elbow injury. Harper he's got solid season numbers so far. He's batting .274. It may change after today's game. 3 home runs, 13 RBIs. Obviously, Bryce is still doing his thing at the plate, but he is a valuable right fielder. He does have a great arm. He's very solid defensively. Does this worry you at all that Bryce has been DH for this many games in a row? But also, you got to think of, we do have a lot of insurance in the outfield with Nick Castellanos and Kyle Schwarber now. So it does give the Phillies that kind of comfortability to give Bryce DH and give him some time to heal.
Yeah, I did see today that Joe Girardi did say that Bryce Harper, the soonest that he would be back in the outfield would be on Tuesday. So that's a really good sign there. I think that Bryce is doing really well at the plate. I would wish that he could be our permanent DH. Only issue is just that Schwarber cannot be in left field, although he can't really hit right now either. So who knows what the Phillies will do once Harper can get back in the field. But like you said, Cale, Bryce Harper is just such a good, valuable outfielder that we need him back there pretty soon.
Yeah, we are going to hop to the NL East standings real quick, as the Phillies are 4th place in the NL East, 5 games back from the New York Mets. The New York Mets currently have the best record in the MLB at 14-6, and they are dealing with some injuries right now. Jacob deGrom not on the field, so Mets looking very impressive. Real quick, guys, is this the Mets division to lose this year?
Yeah, I mean, it was going into the season. It was currently right now, and once they get the ground back, it'll be even more the division to lose.
Yeah, Bassett and Schwarzer are 6-1 right now. So even without deGrom, the Mets starting pitch has been really good.
Yeah, definitely going to be a tall climb for the Philadelphia Phillies, but definitely going to be possible with the talent they've added this offseason. And that's all we have for the Phillies. We are going to jump to the Eagles. That is a big night for the Philadelphia Eagles. That is draft night, a night that fans have waited for this whole past offseason, as the Eagles still have 2 first-round picks, number 15th and number 18th overall. The draft, it is in Las Vegas, the first time ever. Pretty exciting weekend coming up. I mean, the Eagles have a lot of draft capital to choose from. Obviously, tonight is the biggest night, the most watched night, the first round of the draft. A few positions the Eagles have been looking at. They've done a lot of homework on their wide receivers, a lot of homework on some defensive guys. Personally, between you two, who do you guys want to see drafted by the Eagles tonight?
So one guy that I want at number 18, I feel like they go wide receiver for that first one. If he's still available, Matt Gardner, 6'3", 200 pounds, definitely a bigger guy, could be a little bit of an issue playing fast receivers. I think that he'd fit really well in John Gannon's scheme, which is playing more zone. Obviously, when you want to go more man-to-man, it would be an issue, but he's also so big that if you put him in any red zone package, it's going to be a really nice guy to have. So I feel like if he's still available, if the Eagles feel that they got a good wide receiver with that first pick, they need to go quarterback, and I feel like that he would be a really good playmaker for them.
I mean, I've said it all offseason. I'll continue to say it up until the draft night. I really want Derek Stingley Jr., cornerback from LSU. Him alongside Darius Slay, just learning from him, learning his craft, would be so good going forward. And another pick, a first round, Jameson Williams. I know he's coming off the torn ACL, but he came out and said he studied Devontae Smith's college Alabama highlight tapes. We have Devontae Smith on our team. Jalen Hurts, Alabama quarterback. I mean, it's literally writing up the perfect script that has that juggernaut offense that they see what the Bengals have right now with the quarterback connection. So those are the 2 guys I want the Eagles to go look at in the first round.
Yeah, I like sticking to the Alabama tie. I mean, you look at last year's draft, Landon Dickerson and Devontae Smith both had great rookie seasons. Obviously, Nick Saban runs a great program over there, so I'd love drafting their players. Obviously, many of them turn into great NFL athletes. Like I said, the Eagles are doing a lot of their homework on the wide receivers in this draft. We've seen they didn't really make a move in the offseason for a free agency wide receiver, so now we're assuming they're going to go back in the draft. They have drafted a lot of wide receivers in the first round through the past couple of years, Jalen Reagor, Devontae Smith, Nelson Aguilar. Pretty much we saw that down in Las Vegas right now, Jameson Williams said the Eagles have told him that they want him to draft him, and Williams said the Eagles told me they want to draft me, and he'd love to see him next to Devontae. Chris Olave from Ohio State has also visited the Philadelphia Eagles. Garrett Wilson, a wide receiver from Ohio State, has also visited Philadelphia Eagles. So 3 of the top wide receivers in the draft have all had visits in Philly. They all seem like they went very well with Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman. Out of those 3 guys, who do you guys want to see in the Eagles uniform tonight?
I mean, it has to be Jameson Williams. He's the best dynamic of all of them. And even though he tore his ACL, he's still being graded higher than by all NFL teams. So that has to say how talented he is. And second has to be Chris Olave from Ohio State. Because if you don't get Williams, and if he goes higher in the draft, Olave he'll be there around 18, so we wouldn't have to trade up for him. So I like his value there at 18.
Yeah, I think Jamison Williams is, like Matt said, just a huge playmaker. Obviously, we got one product from Alabama who did really well for us in Devontae Smith. I think having two guys plus Hurts who worked in that Alabama system, who, even though he wasn't really there with Williams, there's still that Alabama connection of these guys that have really good work ethic, are really athletic. I feel like that would make it a little bit more comfortable for Williams to come in as well with these guys.
Yeah, I think Williams would be a great fit for the Eagles overall. I mean, you look at Devontae Smith, his structure and frame, a smaller guy, and more of a deep threat down the field type guy, where Jameson Williams is really that true number one wide receiver. I mean, he's big, he's tall, he can do all type of routes. So if you look at Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, they are smaller guys. Would love to have them on the team, but I really think Jameson Williams complements Devontae Smith very well in that Eagles offense. If we do draft Jameson Williams, you're looking at an offense where you have Jameson Williams, Devontae Smith, Miles Sanders, Dallas Goedert, even Zach Pascal, who they've gotten free agency. A very offense that has a lot of threats in it. Do you think that Eagles offense could be top half in the NFL if they get Jameson Williams tonight?
I think if they get Williams at this point, it all just comes down to whether Jalen Hurts is going to improve on last year or not. Clearly, there is a couple question marks, especially after that last playoff game where he did not play very well, got hurt at the end of last year. So I think that we really need to look at him and evaluate how well he plays this year because, man, he's going to have a great offense around him.
I mean, Williams, Olave, or not, we still had the number one run offense in the league last year. Hurts and Smith are getting one more year experience. I think without those guys, we're so top heads in the league. If you had those guys, we might be top 10 considerations. Seeing our run game was so good last year. I'm just overall excited for the draft tonight.
It's definitely going to be an interesting draft. Probably going to see a lot of trades. Possibility the Eagles have been looking up to get into that top 10 depending what players are there. And they're even looking to even draft back if the deal is right. So definitely going to be an interesting night. As we know, Howie loves to pull those type of moves draft day. So we'll see what happens as the draft is tonight at 8 p.m. We are going to hop into Fast Five now. Our first question, this week in baseball with Aiden.
So I don't really like talking about the same topic 2 weeks in a row, but this story is just too bizarre not to talk about. So last week I talked about how abysmal the Oakland A's attendance was in their games. Well, current president for the Oakland A's, Dave Leval, decided to go after reporters on Twitter, saying that the attendance was because they weren't reporting that much on the Athletics and were favoring the Giants who are in the Bay Area over them, which then caused a war between the reporters saying that, no, you just have a really bad attendance. San Francisco's attendance is currently 32,000. Oakland A's is 8,000. The Giants were also really good last year, and the A's decided to sell their players. This now has gone to the point where Leval will be having a Twitter debate with a San Francisco reporter on Friday, so I'm really interested to see how that goes.
Yeah, it's awesome. Definitely some interesting times in the MLB here. We're going on to the next one. Who has been the MVP of the NBA playoffs so far? We're going to Matt for this one.
So right now, first thing that came to mind with two guys, obviously just Jason Tatum leading those Celtics over the Nets. When he was guarding Kevin Durant, I think it's all that he was like 3 for 15 this series, like 17 for forced turnovers. And another guy that comes to mind is Jalen Brunson, local guy from Villanova. Luka Doncic, we saw he was out those first 3 games of the series, and Jalen Brunson was averaging 35 points a game in the series, leading them over the Jazz right now. So when I'm thinking MVP, it has to be either Brunson or Tatum.
Yeah, I love that Jalen Brunson pick. A Villanova product, won 2 national championships with the Villanova Wildcats. So obviously he's in a contract year going into next year. So great play for him, averaging 35 points per game without Luka. Carried the Mavs to 2 games in a row. So obviously great performance by him there. The Pelicans are currently down 3-2 to the Suns since Devin Booker had that hamstring injury. But Zion Williamson, the star for the Pelicans, has still not made his appearance back yet for the season. I think it's very odd just because we've seen all these videos of Zion doing his insane dunks pregame, making shots, all this. So you're telling me that he can't give you at least 15 to 20 minutes on the floor? I mean, especially Zion Williamson being on that floor, only being down 3-2 to his Suns without Devin Booker. I think this is a very winnable series for the Pelicans if they had Zion Williamson on the floor, especially the way Brandon Ingram's playing right now, the addition of C.J. McCollum, who they got after the trade deadline. So definitely, as a Pelicans, if I was a Pelicans fan, I'd be very frustrated with Zion Williamson not being on the court due to that injury. Next, it is draft night. So Who are the Jaguars going to select number 1 overall in the draft? We're going to Aiden for this one.
So I feel like looking at the Jags, they stacked up so much on offense, either last year in the draft, getting Trevor Lawrence, getting Etienne, and I know that Etienne got hurt, but they still have this really solid offense. Signed Kristen Kirk in the offseason with that huge contract. So I feel like right now they're going to want to go defense. Their defense really struggled last year. I think they're going to go Kayvon Thibodeau from Oregon, just an absolute monster on defense. He only played in a few games last year. There was injury concerns, but even with that, he still was up there in the Pac-12 considerations for Defensive Player of the Year. So I feel like that's someone that the Jaguars are really going to want to look at here with that first overall pick.
Yeah, the Jags apparently will come down. We'll have that first overall pick announced before the draft starts. Matt, do you have any idea who you think personally the Jags are going to pick here?
I mean, I really like Hutchinson on Michigan DN to add that defense, like Aiden said. They were really bad last year. But another guy you got to go after, just look at, you have to protect your franchise quarterback and get Evan Neal, tackle from Alabama, I think, if I'm correct. He's just a stud. He's a beast. I haven't seen anybody that big move that in my entire life, and he's ran like a 4.6, 4.7 40. For a guy that big, for a guy that strong in a winning program with Alabama, get him to protect your quarterback going forward and then focus on the rest of the pieces filling after that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I could see Aiden Hutchinson dropping to number 2 to the Detroit Lions. He did play at Michigan, so could be a little homegrown reunion there. Obviously, like Matt said, the Jags, you got to protect your franchise quarterback, especially the amount of times Trevor Lawrence got sacked last year led to a lot of interceptions. So could definitely see them protecting Trevor Lawrence with that pick there. Their second year in a row with the first overall pick, too, so keep that in mind. Last question we're going to go to, as the NHL season is coming to a close, there's only a couple more games left in the regular season. We're going to Matt for this one. Who has the best chance at winning the Stanley Cup this year?
Going forward to the playoffs, I got 3 teams in mind. It has to be the Colorado Avalanche. They've been the best team in hockey for the past 2 years. And then Florida Panthers with Claude Giroux. Love to see Claude Giroux get his ring. Love to see them win. And overall, there's probably the top 2.
Yeah, we did see the Flyers legend Claude Giroux get traded midway through the season. It would be awesome to see him get a ring, and definitely going to have a lot of Philadelphia Flyers fans cheering him on in the playoffs here. Well, that's all we have for Fast 5, and that's all we have for Sports Talk Philadelphia. I want to thank you guys for coming over and watching again. Don't forget to follow us on our social media pages on Twitter and Instagram at LaSalle LTV. And that's all we have for today's episode. And go Sixers tonight.